All right, everyone, welcome back to another module. Now, the subject that we're going to cover in today's module is going to be a rather exciting one for a lot of you. At least it was for me when I first started out my own agency. We're going to talk about how to get paid, okay? How do we actually accept payments from our clients? Now, throughout this module, I'm going to give you a couple of different ways. Okay, I'm going to give you my recommendation and show you how we accept our payments at Aceitando. But I am going to give you just a couple of different ways that you can go about handling payments, just because you are going to be in different situations. And essentially, as you would have learned in the systems and tools module, we use primarily Stripe to accept payments. Okay, now Stripe is an online payment platform. They process the payments and they send the payments directly to our bank account. Okay, now there's one caveat, meaning being that you need a business set up to use Stripe. Okay, so some of you who are just starting out your agency and might not have signed your first client yet, there's a good chance that you haven't even set up your business properly. Okay, and for those of you who are in that situation, I'm also going to show you how you can invoice your first 1 or 2 or even 3 clients without actually having a company set up and without having Stripe set up. Okay, because in most countries, you can make your first $5,000 to $10,000 or around that area without actually having a company set up. Okay, so yeah, you're going to be fine to sign your first 1, 2, or 3 clients without having a company set up, without having Stripe set up, account set up. Okay, so I'm going to show you the different ways you can go about accepting payments. One thing I just want to go ahead and throw in there, which we've mentioned before here in the Academy, but that's just really important to stress, is you never charge your clients the ad spend. Okay, so what they spend on ads is a completely separate entity from what they pay you, right? You have a service fee that might be $2,000 a month or $3,000 a month. It could be any amount, right? But that's what the client pays for your service. Okay, and it's just important for me to stress that if they have an ad spend of $5,000 per month, you never touch that money, right? They pay that directly inside of the ads manager with their own credit card, right? So just wanted to stress the fact that your service fee and the ad spend are completely separate entities. Now, with all of those logistics out of the way, let's get into today's module and have a look at how to accept payments from our clients. All right, guys, so what you're looking at right now is Stripe. Okay, so I'm going to start out by showing you how to accept payments with Stripe. Then I'm going to show you how to accept payments with simple invoices, which is what we usually use at Aceitando. And then finally, I'm going to show you how to accept payments if you don't have a business set up. Okay, so starting off with Stripe, I've set up a test account to a dummy account to show you how we can go about doing this. Okay, as you can see, this account haven't been activated yet. It doesn't have our business details added, etc., which you need to do to physically use Stripe. But we can still go ahead and demonstrate how to use it without having those things added. Okay. So the first thing you might want to go ahead and do is press settings, come down to branding. All right. Now under branding, you can upload an icon. So I've already gone ahead and done that a couple of minutes ago. You can upload an icon, like a round kind of logo thing that will appear in these kind of places, and then a logo that will appear in these kind of places. Okay. Now these things are going to appear in different spots depending on which device your client is viewing the invoice on. Okay, so yeah, that could be a good idea to just go ahead and add to make it, as we talked about in the designing your agency module, just that branding is very important, right? You can even go ahead and add brand colors and accent colors. Okay, so if you have particular branded colors on your website, right, you might like orange or you might like green, you might have your agency just branded in specific colors. Definitely recommend go ahead and updating it to those as well, so everything will be seamlessly branded for your agency. Okay, with that out of the way, the next thing we're going to do is actually just come to customers, and you're going to add your first customer. Okay, now this is of course going to be a test customer, but it looks exactly the same. Okay, so add a test customer. Let's call it, let's just go ahead and write exactly what they've written. Okay, so Jane Doe, jane@example.com, description, social media marketing client. All right. Same as account, email here for billing. That's what you're going to do. For country, we're going to do, let's do United States in this example. Okay, actually, no, because I'm not familiar with US postal codes a lot of the time. So let's just do a quick Danish address. Okay, I'm just going to put in some demo data here. So I know that would be a Danish postal code. Let's just go for Copenhagen. Or we can just put 2000 right here. All right, then let's put in a Danish phone number right here. Again, same as billing details. Choose a time zone, doesn't really matter. Language, let's put English for safety measures. Currency, let's just put United States dollars. And invoice prefix, you can just put this to 50, okay? And you can do the same with this, okay? In that way, your invoice won't start at number 1, okay? So it won't look like it's the first invoice you're ever sending out. That can be a good idea to do, okay? Now here you're gonna choose the tax status. This is gonna depend on your individual situation. For example, if I'm a business operating in Europe and I am invoicing another client who's also located in Europe, well then I want to go ahead and choose reverse charge, because there's going to be no added VAT, okay, value added tax. So you're just going to have to do a quick Google search on your current situation. For example, if I'm an Italian business invoicing another business who's also located in Italy, then I have to add my VAT. Okay, so yeah, that's just a little bit of an individual thing, but you can usually find an answer within a couple of minutes, if not seconds, on Google. So just go ahead and choose reverse charge in this situation, because that's what we usually have. Tax ID, you can put in the ID right here. Okay, so if I wanted to put in a Danish VAT number, I do the DK 1234567 Okay, so you're just gonna have to figure out your local VAT and then put in a matching VAT number here. Okay, so yeah, just gonna go ahead and add the customer. You cannot reuse. Let's just go ahead and change this. Okay, perfect. There we go. So now we have our client added. And so the next thing you want to go ahead and do, if you want to invoice Jane at example.com, click the client, click actions, click create invoice. And now you can actually create your items. Okay, so I've already gone ahead and loaded up a pre-made service right here, which is social media marketing services. But if you don't have one, we can just add create a new product. For example, do social media marketing services. We're going to call it 2 now to make sure there's no overlap. Then you just call it quantity 1, and you can be, let's say you charge 1,500 for this, right? Okay, so you click save. And now this is what you're charging the client. The items are social media marketing services for $1,500. As you can see, that appears on the invoice right here. And then you can add something like, thank you for choosing Stage Digital. All right, just a nice little note, whatever you want to put in there. You can personalize it to your liking. Then if you've already gone ahead and invoiced this client before, they will most likely have their payment method saved in your Stripe account. And so you can just choose automatically charge them when you send out the invoice. Of course, if your client has agreed to this, okay? If they haven't agreed to automatically being charged by you, then I don't recommend choosing this one, okay? So in most cases, you're gonna email invoice to the customer with link to the payment page, okay? And I actually like to choose 7 days for this, okay? Now, in a lot of industries, 30 days is normal, 14 days is normal, but for us, we're gonna choose at maximum 7 days because we want to get paid quite quickly, ideally within 1 day, so we can actually go ahead and start doing our work, okay? So that's going to be that, okay, guys? Now, you can click review invoice and then you can send the invoice, okay? Now, if you want to include somebody else who's also gonna just review this invoice without paying it, you can add them right here. Once you send it out, you can't make any edits. You can't make any further edits, okay? So it's just important that you make sure everything is looking all right. Okay, now, once the client actually receives this invoice, they'll receive an email with it. They can go ahead and click a button in their email, which will open up the invoice, okay? Now, the layout is going to look just a little bit different depending on if they're opening it on their computer or their mobile device, but essentially they'll land on a page that looks somewhat like this, and they can actually just, they'll see that the invoice is for them. They'll see that it's from your agency. Then they'll see your little memo right here. And then they can actually just, choose to, choose card right here, put in their credit card, and then pay the invoice. It's really that simple, okay? Now, this is far different from, how most old-fashioned businesses invoice their clients, and actually how we invoice our first couple of clients as JC Digital, okay? It's far different. Usually with old-fashioned businesses, you'll just create an invoice that looks somewhat like this. You'll see a little bit more of a preview later in the module. You just create an invoice in Word, then export it to a PDF, and that PDF will include all the information, including your bank information, okay? Then you email that PDF to the client, and then they usually take 14 days to pay it with a bank transfer. Once they've paid, you have to wait another couple of days for the amount to, to arrive in your bank, etc. All in all, it's a very, very, it's a process that includes a lot of hassle. It takes a lot of time for you to create this invoice every time in Word, export to PDF, email it to the client, and then the client has to open up this PDF, look at all your banking information, make the bank transfer. And all in all, it literally takes 15 minutes of your time and of the client's time every single time you invoice a client like this. It's so impractical. And that's why we've gone ahead and started utilizing, obviously, these more streamlined systems. Okay. Now, for most of you guys, just doing this, just using Stripe without simple invoices and without traditional invoicing is going to be fine. Okay. This is literally all you need. And that's because throughout the past, I'd say 12 to 18 months, Stripe has really improved their in-house invoicing. Okay, so this means that the method I just showed you, the technique that I just showed you, they've drastically improved that over the last 12, 18, 24 months to a point where now it works incredibly seamlessly. And yeah, for 95% of you who have a business and are going to invoice your clients, this is going to be just fine. Okay, now I stated it all, since we started invoicing our clients using Stripe, around 3 years ago, we actually did this in conjunction with something called Simple Invoice. Okay, so I'm going to show you how Simple Invoices works in just a couple of seconds. But essentially, Simple Invoices is just an online software that works with Stripe. Okay, you can also use it with PayPal actually. And so when you use Simple Invoices, it will still be Stripe that processes the payments and sends it to your bank account. But Simple Invoices just made this entire invoice creation and sending process even more simple and streamlined than Stripe does it. Okay, and so that's why we still use Simple Invoice a lot of the time as Digital, also because a lot of our older clients we just have loaded into the Simple Invoices database, and so we haven't really wanted to change. Okay, now the caveat here is that Simple Invoices is $10 a month to use. They do have a 14-day free trial, which if you want to invoice your first couple of clients, you have 14 days to do that. And by the time you've invoiced those clients, you've made plenty of money in order to pay $10 per month. But again, guys, literally for 95% of you, I recommend just using Stripe as I've just illustrated to you. Okay. Now, for those of you who want to just simplify even further and who don't mind spending that $10 per month, I'll go ahead and illustrate to you how to use Simple Invoices. Okay. So just go ahead and open up Simple Invoices. This is the page you'll land on once you've created your 14-day free trial. You'll notice that you can set it up with both Stripe and PayPal. Okay. Now, again, 95% of you are going to set it up with Stripe. For those of you who are in a rare situation where you can't use Stripe, you can actually set it up with PayPal as well. We don't like to use PayPal just because there's a bigger risk of, PayPal asking for further information, even blocking your money. Thankfully, this hasn't happened to us, but we have heard some horror stories of just PayPal freezing your funds into the account. Okay, but anyway, if you can use Stripe, you can definitely go ahead and use PayPal as an alternative. Their fees are a little bit higher, but 99% of the time PayPal works fine as well. Okay, as a matter of fact, I have a lot of I've paid a lot of people through Simple Invoices where they were using PayPal. Okay, so they send me an invoice using Simple Invoices, and they didn't have Stripe integrated. They had PayPal integrated into the Simple Invoice system, and in those cases, it worked just fine as well. Okay, but again, I recommend setting up with Stripe. Now, once you've set it up with Stripe, you can come to settings, and you can just do your basic settings, right? So select your default currency depending on what country you're in. Select your default language. For the most of you, it's going to be English, but if you're operating a French agency, only working with French clients, you can go ahead and select French, right? You can add your sales tax here if it's relevant, the percentage and the tax ID. Again, it's not going to be relevant for all of you in the beginning, but once you have a company set up, you definitely want to go ahead and add these things. You can add your address right here, which will be applied to your invoice. Invoice notes, you don't really have to bother too much right here, but it can be a nice note like, thank you for choosing Stage Digital. And then you can choose your next invoice number. Okay, so again, you could choose something like 57, right? Or 67. So up here as your next invoice you send out is invoice number 67. Again, you can do some branding here by choosing your invoice color and uploading a logo. Okay, so that's going to be it for the basic settings. You can play a little bit more around with templates, etc. See how it looks. And yeah, just your account settings here. Okay, it's fairly straightforward. What you want to do once you set that up is you want to come to clients, and this is where you really see how easy Simple Invoices is to use. It's even easier than the Stripe method I just displayed, right? So you click create your first invoice, you put in the client at email right here, then you put in the client's address. Okay, so obviously in a lot of cases, a client is going to want to have their company information and perhaps their VAT number, etc. Added right here. And in that case, you will just add that right here. So company name, well, client's company name, client's address, client's VAT. Yeah, it can even be like, country, city, and postal code. All right. So you add all the client's information right here, and that will display on the invoice, as you'll see in just a couple of seconds when you finalize it. Okay. So that's usually enough. Putting this information, you can ask your client if they wish to have this on their invoice, but in a lot of cases, they will indeed want to have this on. Okay. And yeah, now we haven't turned on credit card payments for this account yet because it's just a demo account. But obviously, once you've turned on this and connected with Stripe, you're just going to select credit card payments right here. Okay. You click create client. So this is your first client. All right. Now, if you come to invoices, you can now click new invoice. You can select that client. All right. So it'll automatically load up all of the client's data right here. Then you can actually start, putting in your items, right? So that could be social media marketing services, 4 months, all right? If you sign on this 4-month contract that we recommend, okay? And so as displayed in the other module, if we're signing them on a $3,000 per month deal for 4 months, they're paying for 3 months upfront, well, that will be $9,000 that we're invoicing them, okay? It's that simple. Options here, you can select the currency. So if you want to build them in a different currency, you can do that right here. Select language again. So if your account's default language is set to another language, but you're invoicing a client in a different country, you can even select the individual language for the invoice right here. Then you can select the date. Okay, now in most cases, this is going to be the current date that you're on right now. But if you're sending out your invoice, say 4 or 5 days too late, well, then you can actually go ahead and backdate the invoice right here. Okay, and then you can actually add some notes here. Okay, now we're not going to do this right now because I'm going to create another invoice where I show you what we can use this for in a minute. Okay, because that's how you can actually invoice your clients without a company. Okay, so yeah, if there's any discount here, you're not really going to do that. And again, if there's any sales tax, you apply that right here. Okay, now you can either send it right here, which I usually don't like to do. I like to save it as a draft first, preview it, and then send it out. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Now, quick thing right here is if your client has agreed to it and you have their credit card loaded into the account, which you'll usually have after the first payment, or if you manually do it for them, then you can actually turn on automatic payments right here. Now, this is something I like to do with some of our clients. I'd say we have around 40 to 60% of our clients on this automatic payments plan. And essentially what that means is if I have a $2,500 per month deal with a client and we turn on this option, well, then they'll be charged that $2,500 on the same day of the month, every single month. Okay, that doesn't have to be on the 1st of the month. It could be on the 17th or on the 23rd, right? But essentially by turning on this option, they won't have to go in and put in their credit card every single month. They'll just be charged that amount automatically. Okay, now obviously it's important that they agree to this, but if they agree to it, it's really good because you don't have to go in and create an invoice every single month, and they don't have to manually pay that invoice every single month. It's just an automatic process. Okay, so I definitely recommend asking if your clients are okay with this and then implementing it with them. Okay, now without any further ado, let's click create save as a draft right here, and then go ahead and view it. Okay, so yeah, this is how it's going to look. Okay, now if you've done your branding all right, your logo will appear right here. Your company information will appear next to it right here. Okay, and so obviously the client's going to be able to view that. And then the invoice right here to the client name, the client's company name, obviously, client address, country, city and postal code, and their VAT number. Okay, so this is pretty much all of the information that 99% of clients would request to have on their invoice, and that will display right here, and that's perfect. Okay, now once your client receives this invoice on their email, there'll be a button right here at the bottom where it says pay invoice. Okay, they click that button and then they put in their credit card and they pay it. Okay, so it's pretty much the same process as I showed you with Stripe, but it's actually a little bit easier. And as you can see, the process of creating the invoice, creating the client profile, etc., inside of Simple Invoices, I'd say is at least 30% easier with Simple Invoices compared to Stripe. Okay, so if you're in that situation where you don't care about spending $10 per month on this, then I definitely recommend connecting your Stripe to Simple Invoices because it does streamline the process a little bit and it makes it easier. If you don't want to spend that $10, or if you're just starting out, which it's going to apply to most of you, then I just recommend invoicing your clients directly with Stripe as I showed in the beginning. Okay, now the last thing we're going to show is how to use simple invoices to invoice a client if you don't have a company set up. Okay, now you can go ahead and create a free trial. You don't even connect your Stripe or your PayPal because you don't have a company set up. And then what we're going to do is we're going to create a new invoice. I'm going to select the same client as before, select the same service, all right, same price. And then we're going to come to options right here, and then you are going to I should have a note pulled up with this information. And once you've made it to options, you're gonna go ahead and insert this info right here into the invoice notes. Okay, so this is going to be your information. Okay, this is where you're gonna put it should actually be receipt right here. This is going to be your information. Okay, and so if you don't have a company set up, you're just going to give them your personal banking details. Okay, so inside of your online bank, find your IBAN, find your SWIFT. This can also be called BIC in some cases. All right, so yeah, and then you put your bank name. Obviously you're not going to have an agency address because you don't have an incorporated company, but you can put your address, your country, city, postal code. Okay, and then you just end it off by saying invoice to be paid within 7 days of receipt. Okay, you can still put an agency name here even though you don't have an incorporated company, right? So you can still put Stage Digital or whatever you've called your agency, even though you haven't incorporated as an official company yet. Okay, now by putting in this information right here, it will actually display on the invoice. So let's just go ahead and take a look, right? Let's click view on our new invoice, and this information will appear down here. Okay, and so you can actually just take a screenshot of this, right? And then even you can take that screenshot and convert it to a PDF if you want to send it as a PDF. Now you can also click download PDF invoice, but I don't like to do that just because it doesn't look as good. It doesn't look nearly as good as you can see. But if you just want to go ahead and do that, it is actually quicker, but it doesn't look as good as you can tell. So you can either download it as a PDF invoice and send that to the client, or take a screenshot of it and convert the screenshot into a PDF, which takes maybe 1 minute, and then send that to the client. Okay. Now by doing this, obviously the client will just send the payment to your IBAN, your SWIFT, your bank name, etc. They'll send the payment directly to your bank account. Okay. And so obviously this is far less streamlined than invoicing them with Stripe or simple invoices. But this is the more traditional way of invoicing clients, and that's how a lot of old companies still do it to this day. And this is how I invoiced my first couple of clients. Okay. Now, what you can expect is that it will take a little bit longer to for you to receive the payment, and it will take longer for you to create the invoice. And it's a less streamlined process. It's less professional, etc. It's essentially less professional. But again, if you don't have a company set up yet, then you're not going to be able to use Stripe or the full functions of simple invoices. And in that case, you want to send out a manual invoice like this. Okay. Now, as I said, you can easily create this by doing a 14-day free trial in simple invoices and then creating your first invoice like this. Okay. You could also just create a similar invoice inside of Word by yourself, but that's going to take you maybe an hour. And I don't recommend doing that when you literally just have the option of creating it inside of simple invoice. Okay. So that's going to be the different ways of invoicing your clients. Okay. Firstly, Stripe is the pillar of invoicing and accepting payments. Okay. You can also use PayPal for those of you who are in the rare situation that you can use Stripe, but still have a company set up. But yeah, they have larger fees essentially, and Stripe is just more streamlined. All right. But if you don't have a company set up, then you can indeed go ahead and use simple invoices and literally just create the invoice, insert your banking information in there, and then send that out as a PDF via email to your client. Okay. Now, as I said, in most countries, you're going to be fine to accept your first $5 to $10 in payments before you have a company incorporated. Okay. So for those of you who are just starting out your company, your agency, you haven't signed your first client yet, you haven't set your company up yet. Once you sign that first client, you can just invoice them like this, accept that first anywhere between $2 to $5, $7, even $10,000 in payments without your company set up. Once you've hit that $5 to $10,000 mark, then we definitely recommend registering your business. Okay. So yeah, that's going to be it for this module. Yeah, you should now know how to accept payments from your clients, right? And I'll see you in the next module.